All right, you guys, so next we're going to talk about our bridles and fitting our bridles, taking care of them, making sure everything is on correctly, because obviously this is the part that you are depending on as your backup, right? We want our bit to be the backup on steering and stopping and all that good stuff. Okay, and so we want to make sure that this piece of equipment is going to be there and it's going to be fitted correctly and that we don't have any problems with it. Okay, so this bridle, I actually don't remember who I put it on last, so hopefully we'll get to do some adjustments on it and see how we do that with our different horses. Okay, so first we're going to start with, when you get your bridle out, making sure that all of the pieces look like they're well conditioned. All right, there shouldn't be any cracking, there shouldn't be any parts that look like they might fall apart or they've been chewed on. You want to make sure everything looks good, and this really is, in the end, your responsibility to make sure that the equipment is lasting and working well. So make sure that you're looking at that. And then obviously after your ride, making sure that you're conditioning the leather and figure eighting it correctly and putting it away so that things don't get chewed on when they're left on stalls, and we can keep up with if we need to do repairs or if we need to replace something. Okay. Then looking at your bit, and after every ride, making sure that you're cleaning it. So we want to make sure that they're not rusted, that they're not gunked up with stuff, that all the pieces that need to move are moving freely. Nothing should be sticking and unable to move. All right, that would be a problem, and that would be something you would need to report to whoever you're riding with, or if the day comes that you're in charge of that equipment, then you need to be the one who says, okay, we need to replace that, because that's going in your horse's mouth. Really not a great deal. All right, so we're going to talk about how we put on our bridle, and just typical, we have a D-ring, snaffle, pretty basic. I always like to start really basic. So, whether you've had your horse on cross ties or straight tied in the stall, you'll always want to make sure that you unhook them before you start to put your bridle on, and you want to make sure that you put the reins over their head, okay, so that we still have some way of getting a hold of them should they decide to walk off or eat hay or do whatever is far more interesting than going on a ride in the arena, right? So we want to make sure that you put those over their head, okay? And then we're going to take off our halter. And there might be an instance one day where you wouldn't, but we're always going to take off the halter so that we don't have anything underneath. And this is always a good time to double check that you don't have any dirt on their ears, there's nothing on the sides of their face where the bridle is going to go, because all of that could be rubbed by our bridle, and that would be really unfortunate. So we want to make sure we don't have any dirt that was hiding before up by their bridle path or in their mane or anything like that. Okay. And then we're always going to stand to the side of our horse when we do this, because if we stand directly in front of our horse, you can't really see us. Okay. And so we never want to be in the position where we're going like this at our horse with the bridle. Okay. So we're always going to stand next to them, facing the same direction that they are. Okay. And then I like to take my crown piece, my nose band, and my throat latch all in one piece, so I don't have anything extra, especially if you have a really mouthy horse and they try and take everything in their mouth as you go. Put all that stuff together, okay? So then we're gonna ask our horse to come over here, and you're gonna hold the bit, right? And you're gonna slide it up into their mouth, right? And then you can put all this stuff down gently and fold their ears forward through there, okay? There are times where maybe their ears will be back and you slide that over their ears that way, but I always like to bring their ears forward as I put it on, so it's more comfortable, okay? All right, so then we're gonna look at all of our pieces and see what adjustments we need to make to that, okay? So this bit is maybe a little bit tight on him right now, okay? We're always gonna look at the sides, which might be a little hard to see, but we're gonna look at the side of their mouth, and they'll have little wrinkles from where the bit is, right? And there's guidelines that say like 2 to 3 wrinkles. I think 1 to 2 wrinkles is fine, okay? Because if it's really tight, then you're gonna have a lot of wrinkles and your horse will probably be holding its mouth open, all right? So the adjustments for this are gonna be made right here on this cheek piece, okay? So you can go up or down with that. And sometimes depending on your horse, you might take it off of them to do this adjustment, okay? Unless you have somebody to help you, but we're just gonna move that down. One like that. And then everything goes back to the keepers, always. All of these pieces on your bridle should always be through the keepers, always, always. Otherwise, we run the risk of things hitting them in the eyes or being too loose. All right, and so now that I took that down one, we have just one wrinkle happening, but I think maybe we're hanging a little low. So just as bad as being too tight, where it's pressing up against our horse's corners of their mouth, is being too low, okay? So if it's too low, it's gonna be banging against their teeth and cause a lot of discomfort and be really loose in their mouth, which means that your hands can move that bit even more than normal, okay? So we wanna make sure that we don't ever have it too low or too tight. It needs to be just right, okay? Actually, they look pretty good. Another good test is trying to pull these cheek pieces. You should be able to pull it out a little bit. It shouldn't come way out here. That means it's too loose, and it shouldn't be impossible to pull out. So this one's a little tight maybe, okay? And then obviously you wanna make sure, and this actually is even now, that you're even on both sides as far as your holes. So both of them are on the second hole now. Okay, so this bridle is a little, is made for a warm blood, and he's a little quarter horse. And then we have the next piece we're going to talk about is our noseband, or the cavesson, okay? Ideally, is going to hit about here, all right? Not down here and not sitting way up here, right there in the middle. So that when we tighten this, and this is the one that you want to be snug, not so tight that you can't fit a finger in, okay? You should be able to fit a finger, one finger in here in any of these spots, comfortably. It shouldn't be pinching your finger, right? But we don't want this to be loose either. Now, there are a couple of different reasons for that. The pressure that is going to be exerted on that area. You know, some horses don't really need nosebands, and so for those horses, don't use them. But it's my opinion that if you don't need it, don't use it, okay? Don't have it there and have it so loose that if your horse were to put its head down and try and itch, that you are going to end up with a horse getting stuck in its own noseband. So if you feel like your horse doesn't need it, take it off. Just take it off the bridle. Obviously at the college, don't do that on any of them unless we specifically tell you to. And if you're riding in a riding program, you need to do what they tell you to do, okay? But on your own horse, if you come to me one day and say, well, my horse doesn't need a noseband, that's why it's so loose, and just take it off of your horse, okay? And so the noseband, we want to make sure that that cheek piece is even on both sides so that we don't have a crooked noseband. Just looks silly, okay? And so you can just adjust that, and it goes underneath your crown piece. But you want to make sure that's nice and even, okay? And then last we have our throat latch, okay? And so the throat latch is going to come right here. And this is the one that we want to make sure we don't have too tight. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to have the 4-finger rule on. So we're going to do this. Make sure you can fit 4 fingers this way. Okay, if you tighten it so tight, that is where they breathe. Okay, and then as far as being too loose, if it's too loose, it's just going to be kind of a hazard. Just an ugly hazard. If your horse ever were to put its head down and itch, it's just hanging there. It doesn't do anything if it's too loose, okay? So we want to make sure we can fit about 4 here, okay? And it should look nice and appropriate, okay? I'm going to turn and trouble this side. Operate, okay? So now our bit is even on both sides. Our noseband is even. Everything is in its keepers. Nothing is in disrepair, and then we're ready to go.